Okay guys, so first of all, congratulations for making it this far. You are already ahead of 90% of the other students in this course, and I really appreciate every minute you spent in this course. So again, if you have any problems or questions or any suggestions for me on how I can improve this course, please just tell me in the discussions and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So in this lecture, we are going to talk about conditionals. And you may have noticed already that sometimes you may want to run code only if a certain condition holds. So for example, you only want to log in a user if the password is correct. That's probably one of the most obvious examples. So now we're going to learn how to do that. So first of all, we're going to create a new file for this. We are not going to use the Kotlin REPL anymore because we're actually going to need multiple lines. And it gets really unreadable in the Kotlin REPL if we do that. And it's more understandable if we create an own file for this. So we go back to our source folder here on the left, right click, new Kotlin file /class. And I'm going to call this one Conditionals. Hit OK or enter. And we're going to get rid of this comment again. Now we want to make this file an application of its own. And to do that, we're going to create a main function again by just relying on what IntelliJ gives us. And now we can start typing our code. So let's say we're running a shop and we only want to register people who are at least 18 years old. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable called age, which is a int, but you don't need to specify this explicitly. And for now, I'm going to say it's 21. Now let's assume that this variable is actually generated from the user. So the user gives us their age and we're going to store it in this variable. So now we want to check if this age variable is lower than 18 and then we cannot register this person, or if he or she is more than 18 years old or at least 18 years old so we can register. So to do that, we're going to have to type if and then parentheses, and inside these parentheses we put our condition. So in this case we want to check if the age is less than 18, and next we have to specify what code should be run if this condition is true. And we do that by opening up curly brackets, and inside here, just like we did inside our main function basically, we can write all code that is supposed to run only if the age is less than 18. So let's just print out you cannot register. Alright, so to test this, let's go ahead and set the age to 15 so that this condition holds true, and this program should actually print you cannot register. So now if we try to run this, we're actually going to run into a problem, which is a Kotlin specific thing. So it's going to tell us that we've already defined a main function in this package. And since we haven't really defined any packages ourselves yet, this root package is basically our source folder. So what we need to do to create another main function, so basically another application, we're going to right click in our source folder and create a new package right here. And I'm going to call this Conditionals. So now let's move our new file inside this new package and hit OK. And now what IntelliJ is going to do is it's going to also include this package declaration over here. So this just means that this file belongs to the package conditionals that we just created. And now we have our two main functions separated. So basically now Kotlin knows which main function we want to run if we run our file. So let's go ahead and try this again. We're going to run our conditionals file, and now it's going to print you cannot register. So whenever you come across this problem where Kotlin tells you you already have a main function defined in a root package, just create another package where you can put your new main function. Alright, so let's close this down. And now the question is, how do we specify which code should be run if this condition is not true? And we can do that by typing else over here, opening up curly brackets again. And inside here we can specify the code that is supposed to run if, well, in this case, age is at least 18. So if the condition in the if block does not hold true. So I'm just gonna type print line, you're good to go. So now let's run this again, and remember our age is still 15, so this condition still holds true. And so if we run this, what it's going to do is it's still going to print you cannot register, and it's basically going to ignore this code because the condition did hold true, so it's not going to jump into this else block. So there you have it. That's how you can run code only if a certain condition is true. But there's one more thing we need to talk about, and that's if we have more than just an if-else kind of situation. And in fact, we can have as many conditions as we like. So we can specify any amount of conditions by typing else if, and then we can put another condition into these parentheses, open up the brackets again. Okay, now it's gonna screw up, so I'm gonna do this myself. And now let's say in this case, we have another condition checking if age is less than 21. And in this case, we're gonna say, well, maybe you can register. So the important thing is we may have more than just two different conditions we want to cover, and we can specify as many as we want basically by just typing more conditions here, like less than 27, if there's anything special we want to do then. So I'm just gonna write some boilerplate content here. And you can have as many of these else if statements as you like. Now let's see what happens. Let's specify the age as 19. So if we run this now, this is actually gonna not run this block of code because it's not less than 18. And then next it's gonna check if it's less than 21, which is true. So it's gonna print, well, maybe you can register. And notice that it's not gonna start checking the other conditions that follow. So as soon as one of the conditions is true, Kotlin is gonna stop checking the other conditions that follow. So that's why it won't print this, because if it would go on and check if age is less than 27, that would also be true and it would also print this, but it doesn't. So as soon as one condition is true, it's gonna stop. So just for the sake of completeness, I'm gonna set age to 25, run this again to get into our third block here. So this is gonna print, you should be able to register. And lastly, I'm gonna set it to 28, run this again. And this is gonna jump into this else block here, you're good to go. All right, I should probably resize this a bit. I only made it this big because of the Kotlin REPL. And one last thing I'd like to mention is any code you write behind this whole if else blocks is always gonna run. So if I print line the end right here, this is gonna run no matter which condition holds true. So always be aware of the scope you're typing code into. So if you're writing code inside these curly brackets, this is going to belong to this condition only. And that's also why it's really important to indent your code correctly, which IntelliJ is going to do for you most of the time. And if you notice your code is kind of getting out of hand, you can always go to code and then reformat code or auto indent lines. And then it's going to fix any of the formatting problems you might have. All right, so that's it about if conditionals, and you can check what you've learned in the following quiz. And then I'll see you in the next lecture where we talk about a similar concept of when conditionals.